Hello, YouTube, and welcome to my channel. My name is K.A Bloch, and I am the award-winning author of 4 books that consist of poetry and prose. I also have a website and a blog at thepracticalpoet.com where you can get copies of the poems that I've posted so far and see what is the featured poem for this week's video. So each week I intend to do a poetry reading, which is more like a storytelling, and I kind of follow the format that I follow in all of my books, which in my books, I do tell a little story first before I get into the poem. And I just give a little bit of a backstory on the poem itself, like what was the motivation, what was the inspiration, why did I choose to write it? And then I will carry that over into this video that I'm going to post each week, and kind of following that same format so that you can have an idea of what I was thinking when I wrote the poem. And you may choose to agree or disagree, and that's perfectly fine. Poetry is totally open to interpretation. So I never want to take the interpretation away from the reader. I always want the reader to be able to, kind of get their own feelings and their own thoughts about the poem without me telling them what I think they should think about it, right? That's for everybody else to decide how they feel and what they think about a poem. So I'm just giving you my thoughts and my inspiration and what inspired it. And actually today, what inspired this week's featured poem is the subject of the poem. And that is, the poem is called Guardian Angel. And it happens to be from my 3rd book, which is called Gather Seeds of Hope. And links to my books are available at my website and blog at, again, thepracticalpoet.com/books would bring you to a link. And then the poem that I'm going to be reading shortly is also featured under the blog section of that same website. So the reason that I decided to feature this poem this week is I've been in a bit of a spiritual mood lately, and maybe the other previous videos that I've posted so far kind of allude to that. We just recently had the anniversary of the passing of both of my parents, not at the same time, several years apart, but as the calendar unfolded, they were really only passed away within 2 weeks of each other. Again, many, many years apart, but they hit at the same time each year. And, that can be a little bit tough, especially as my dad is 35 years, which just blows my mind. And my mom recently 8 years. So they've been on my mind a lot. And I do feel like they may be my guardian angels. I've read a little bit up on spiritual guides and guardian angels, and I've read some things that say that our guardian angels are not people that we know in this life. Maybe we knew them in a past life, but I don't know. I choose to override that, and I tend to think that my parents and maybe my grandparents and some other relatives are kind of looking out for me. And the reason I think that is a lot of times I'll get an idea for a poem. I'll get some kind of inspiration, or I'll just kind of get like a flash, like a flashcard that just pops right into my head. And maybe it's a line, maybe it's a verse, maybe it's just a title. And I know that there's something there that I need to start working on. And especially if it kind of lingers with me a little bit longer than just a flash. Sometimes I forget things right away and they're gone if I don't write them down. But if it's still sticking with me, then I know that that's something I need to explore. And I kind of take it as a message that there's a poem there that I need to kind of come up with. There's some kind of somebody's telling me to do something with this message. So funnily enough, is that a word? Funnily enough, the guardian angel, the first 2 verses of the poem that I'm going to be reading to you shortly, I was actually starting to fall asleep one night. I was tired. I started to just doze off, and I was woken up very quickly. And I had the first 2 verses of this poem playing through my mind. And like I mentioned, if I don't write it down, sometimes it's gone. So I knew if I went back to sleep, I would never remember it in the morning. So I quickly grabbed my phone and I texted myself the first 2 verses, and then I went right back to sleep. And then in the morning, I picked up my phone and I kind of polished them off a little bit and wrote the rest of the poem. So I had to give a little nod to my guardian angel for that. I feel like they wanted to be featured in this book. They knew I was writing this book, and they wanted to get their own poem in there. So they kind of tapped me on the shoulder that night and said, "Hey, we've got a couple verses here for you to get you going." So I appreciated that. So as far as guardian angels, why do I believe that we have them? Well, have you ever had like a stirring in your gut that something wasn't right? Do you know that they call our gut our second brain? And that's because we can feel so many things in our gut. We could just get that gut instinct, that gut feeling. Maybe don't go down this road, or don't go through this yellow light, stop, because maybe there's another car coming in the opposite direction that you can't see. And by, hitting those brakes, you're going to avoid that accident, or take a different road, or don't get on this plane. I once went to a meeting or a speech by a guy who was supposed to get on one of the planes that crashed. I think it was in Iowa many years ago. And for whatever reason, he did not get on that plane that morning. And the plane ended up crashing. Recently, when I was in Italy, I met a woman who has become a good friend. And she lives in New York, and she actually worked at the World Trade Center and was headed to work on that fateful Tuesday morning in 2001. She was passing a store and decided to go in and get an errand done that had been plaguing her for a couple of weeks. She had been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And suddenly, on her way to work, she passed the store. It happened to be open at that early hour. And she was like, I think I'm going to get this errand done. And she went into the store, and we know what happened afterwards. So she would have been possibly inside that building, or even maybe in the elevator or something, when the events unfolded of that morning. So what made her go into that store that day? What made that guy not get on the plane that morning? What makes any of us do anything? Have you ever said, I don't think I'm going to go on this blind date? Or maybe I'm going to take a different route to work today. And then you find out later on that there was a bad accident or something bad happened. So where do those come from? We all have intuition, right? But where does that intuition come from? I choose to believe that those little voices in our head, and not in a crazy way, but those little whisperings that we get that give us little warnings, that's our sixth sense kicking in. And I choose to believe that it is our guardian angel or something above us that we don't really fully understand here in the physical world. I believe that they are looking out for us, and they're kind of guiding us. And, we have free will here. We don't have to listen. We could go on that blind date. We could take that road to work, even though we have a feeling that maybe we shouldn't. We could get in the car with that person when maybe we know that they've had a little bit too much to drink, and we probably shouldn't, and our voice, everything, and screaming to us to say, don't do it, and we do it anyway. We have that free will. And if we choose to override what our guardian angels, or what our whisperings, or our intuition, or gut feeling, or whatever you choose to call it, is telling us, then we may have to suffer the consequences if it ends up not going the way that it doesn't work out for the best. And sometimes that happens, and we have to say, gosh, I had this feeling that I shouldn't have done that, or I had this feeling that I shouldn't have gone to that party. I have a feeling I shouldn't have gone on that date, or whatever it's going to be. And that's an unfortunate situation to be in, when we know that we should have probably trusted ourselves. But again, where does our trusting ourselves come from? I think it comes from something that we don't understand. I think it's a little bit of our guardian angels that are tapping us on the shoulder and saying, listen to me. I remember one time, and I do tell the story in the book here. I was going to, I have a little bit of a handbag fetish, or I used to. I kind of have gotten over it now, but I was at Neiman Marcus, and I was going to buy a very expensive handbag, Balenciaga, I believe. And I was going up to the counter with the bag. And I just got a flash, again, one of those flashcards that just flashes through my brain. And it was a medical bill that I owed money on. And it was pretty close to the price of that bag. And I hadn't thought about that bill in a while. So why then at that particular moment did something flash in my brain and say, put that bag down, which I did end up doing. Common sense did take over. I have free will. I could have overrode it and then suffered the consequences of not doing the right responsible thing. But I would have had a new bag to show for it, right? But it wasn't the right thing to do. So anyway, I'd like to get into the poetry reading. Again, this is called Guardian Angel. It is from my third book, Gather Seeds of Hope. And a copy of this is also posted on the blog site of my website. So before I get started, quick sip of tea here. Put on my glasses. I'll do my very best not to stumble over any of the words. And I hope that you enjoy this poetry reading. This is not a very long one. A lot of my poems are really long. This one, believe it or not, for my writing, this one is actually considered a little shorter than a lot of my poems, but it's still fairly good size. So I hope that you stick with me for the duration. And again, keep in mind, the first two verses came to me while I was sleeping by my guardian angels that wanted to be a part of this. So I hope you enjoy. Guardian Angel. When you bid the day goodbye with the setting of the sun, and you lie down on your pillow because at last the day is done, when you finally close your eyes and your breath begins to slow, please know that I am here, and I am never letting go. When you wake up in the morning and open up your eyes and greet the newborn day with a nod to the blue skies, as you pour yourself some coffee and go about your day, please know that I am here to guide you on your way. I am here through thick and thin and happiness and sorrow. I'm a memory from yesterday and a promise for tomorrow. I am here for every teardrop and every precious laugh. I am here when life feels like it's ripping you in half. I'm the hairs that stand up on your neck to warn of looming danger. I'm the alarm bells inside your head when approached by a stranger. I'm a nudge into your conscience and a whisper in your ear. I am the voice of reason you may not want to hear. I'm the stirring in your gut that makes you take a different route. I'm aware of every move you make as your day you go about. I am watching from the sidelines and I'm sitting on the fence. Some call me intuition, others call me a sixth sense. No matter what you call me, I am with you for the ride. I'm your guardian angel, and I'll never leave your side. So that was the poetry reading of Guardian Angel from Gather Seeds of Hope. And one thing that I should have mentioned earlier was this poem is actually written from the perspective of the guardian angel. So it's like the guardian angel kind of reiterating that they are always with us, that they're always there. They're watching from the sidelines. They're there to jump in at any moment that we may need them. And in this world, we need them quite often, right? And I'm glad to know that I have somebody by my side. I'm glad to know that I have somebody that's got my back. Even if I choose not to listen, I feel just a little bit of peace. And you may think this is all hooey and you may not believe, and that's perfectly fine as well. Like I mentioned, we all have free will to believe or not believe what we choose to. I choose to believe that they are out there to help and protect us. And I'm going to take their guidance whenever I can, because why not? And what do I have to lose by not believing, right? So I'm gonna believe that they are there and that they are on my side for the duration. And I think, like I mentioned, you can choose not to believe, or I hope that you do believe, and I hope that if nothing else, even if you don't believe, listen to the voices in your head. And again, not in a crazy way, but the voices that are giving you warnings or telling you not to do something, or if you get that stirring in your gut or the hairs on the back of your neck, don't wipe that out. Don't say that's not accurate or that's not happening or I'm going to override that. Like really listen and try to, at the very least, to at least tune into your tuition and start to trust your instincts and start to trust yourself, even if you don't think it's your guardian angels or your spirit guides or somebody beyond that's whispering to you. Start to trust your own instincts and start to listen to yourself and keep yourself nice and safe and try to do the right thing. So with that, I am going to leave. It is Friday, so I'm excited. I'm about to head out and enjoy a nice glass of wine and maybe a pizza and kick off the weekend. So with that, again, from Gather Seeds of Hope, links to this book and all of my books are available at the page, the practicalpoet.com/blog or /books. You can get the printed copy of The Guardian Angel along with the backstory. And if you like this poetry reading and the storytelling through poetry and you want to hear more, please make sure that you click on like and subscribe. I would love to have you join me every week for another storytelling through poetry. And with that, I wish you have a wonderful weekend and listen to those voices in your head. But again, not in that crazy way. So have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.